let me give the mic to Willem and give him a big round of applause because he's the organizer of this conference.
Good morning, everybody. A very warm welcome again. I'm very happy to see you, for those who were here before in June, to see you again. I think it's we did it on quite short notice, and because of that we had to do it with everybody. It was not me. It was a big help again of John and Renske for facilitating this beautiful center, which is really flowering into a beautiful light place. Happy to see that. So thank you again for that. Thank you for the amazing speakers today. Again, Ule Dammergaard is here, and Desiree is stated, and Ian Arkrane is also coming. So I have three amazing speakers, and myself. Well, we have to see where that will end, but the intention is there. So to make it a very successful conference again. It's we have 4 speakers instead of 5, and because I think the most important thing is that we have an opportunity to connect with each other. We all feel that things are happening, things are changing, and we feel the need for a safe environment to connect with each other and share information and ideas, because we're all in this together. And so events like this are important. Can I speak like this or not? No. Okay. What's happening? After the last conference in June, by the way, there's some practical things, because we don't have these nameplates. I really regret it a little bit, because it's really nice to have the names on your body, and then it gives some more connective vibe. Good morning. After the last conference, the first and the last conference I organized, I was definitely came for myself to the conclusion this is a very nice experience, but I'm never going to do this again. So within 5 months, the second one is already there. And for me, the trigger was when a very dear friend of mine, Alexander Dorin, he's a Swiss researcher, and he exposed the lies about the Srebrenica episode, the hoax, which it is. And he was arrested this year, because this year was the 20th birthday of the Srebrenica hoax, if you want to call it like that. And he was arrested and put in solitary confinement for 16 weeks in Switzerland. I tried to have him at the conference in June, but it was impossible, because in Holland 2 things are really very controlled or suppressed, and that is the war in Yugoslavia and the Srebrenica episode. A lot of people don't know that this is a hoax, and that this is really a very dark part of Dutch history, because we're so involved in it. So that's the thing, and the Royal Dutch family. If you go there, then you feel that you're on the right track, because people are watching. But anyway, Alexander, who is a great, we do questions after the talk if possible. We have enough time for it, so I'm happy to answer all the questions, if I can. We have other people also who are much smarter than me, so ask your questions to anyone you like to do. But anyway, Alexander is an amazing guy. He did 14 years painstaking research on what happened in Srebrenica. I will talk about it a little bit later, because he's a very important person in my effort to speak out the truth. And because he was arrested, nobody knew where he was. We lost contact. Contact was already very difficult with him, but I just said I couldn't get him to the conference in June. So just 6 weeks ago, he was released. 16 weeks solitary confinement. They destroyed his house, confiscated everything. So that's where we are now, and that's what triggered me the urgency of getting this event going again. So that was my personal reason for having it started again on short notice. So they couldn't change the location, so that was a positive thing. Well, I will start my presentation. I will speak a little bit about my own experiences and who I am and what made me, how it came to be that I'm doing these kinds of things. And when I became whistleblower, a lot of people know me maybe of the whistleblower period when I was an airline pilot over the toxic air in the airplane. So I will speak a little bit about myself, and then I will speak about geoengineering. And after that I will address a little bit of things, what we can do to really act, because we're now at a point that we on the tipping point, we see it's happening. I live in France, mainly because of the radiation. I'm electrosensitive to radiation, so like we all are, but in Holland it's horrific, the radiation, so I live there in the outside. But in France, what happened due to the latest events in Paris, where Ole will speak about, 2,500 people are arrested, and also some friends of mine who just have nothing to do with anything of terror, just speaking out the truth. They are in jail, and that's coming here as well. So we still have to make maximum use of the possibilities and the opportunity that we can still do these beautiful events. And because we are, I think, my presentation, I don't want to insult people, that I want to mention, but I will give my view. It's my view, so it's just information for you. I won't be politically correct. I think it's time that we call the beast by its name. And I think we're past the tipping point. And that's actually a positive thing, because like in a roller coaster, if you pass the tipping point, the only thing you can do is let go. And that's the spiritual opportunities, the amazing opportunities we have here, is of really letting go of all the dark stuff in ourselves. So that's my introduction. I hope this works. So that's me, as you can clearly see. I'm grown up in the north of Holland, in Groningen. When I was 3.5, I moved to The Hague, and this picture is an important picture for me personally, because it represents my inner child. I was still in a state of joy. I remember actually when this picture was taken in the garden in Groningen, and I was still in this state of joy, of happiness, of oneness, of the inner child. But as we grow up in this dysfunctional, codependent environment, the inner child goes into hiding, and we become this false self, this false ego, and we identify with it. And that is causing the biggest problems, and that's where we get fragmented. So that's why this is an important element in my talk as well, because the inner child is a very powerful program, if you want to call it like this, what we all carry in ourselves. If you can reconnect with the inner self, the inner child is the real self. Carl Jung calls it the divine self. And if we can reconnect with who we really are, then we can liberate ourselves and humanity, I think. So that's why I thought this picture is good to show. Then the problems for me started really when I had to go into the mind destruction factories, left brain prisons called the school, and I really had a difficult time there. And as with all of us happens in the current education system, it's made by that. My inner child went even more into hiding, and it was difficult to start develop fears, anxiety, depression, anger, the whole usual stuff. And John Taylor Gatto is he describes it very clear in his books and his works. John Taylor Gatto was a school teacher for 30 years in New York, and he was teacher of the year a few times, and he describes it very well, how the current education system, the compulsory education system, how it controls the mind and how it destroys the mind actually, and how things like cognitive dissonance, which is what we can clearly see, this epidemic of cognitive dissonance and all kinds of other reflexes from the mind are implanted in the mind dynamics. It's interesting to read his books, Weapons of Mass Instruction and Deliberate Dumbing Down. So that's the education was for me not a happy period. After school, I went into the army and in the Dutch military. I did the special forces, Green Berets, and it was a very valuable period actually for me personally, because it was something I wanted to do myself. I learned a lot about myself. I learned a lot about my physical possibilities and mental possibilities. Learned a lot about real brotherhood and a lot about real healthy patriotism, and so that was an important period for me. After the army, I tried all kinds of commercial jobs. Actually, all jobs I tried failed miserably. I was fired everywhere and it didn't work out. So I decided to either go back into the army, or I got this beautiful opportunity to go to the School of National Aviation, which was always a dream of mine, flying. When I was a little boy, it was really where my passion is. That's the thing I really like to do. And so I was really happy that I got this opportunity to go to the National School of Aviation. And so I started my job as a pilot, and then that was also the period we in the beginning I flew for Transavia Airlines, you know that airline, and we did ad hoc flights for the Defense Department. We flew in the war of Yugoslavia, and we stayed overnight there in just behind enemy front lines. And because of that, I had the opportunity to speak with the military Dutch staff generals, and what I saw that they all had the same. They said the same. Is what they didn't have a clue why they were in this war. That was one, and that they were fighting with the enemy, with the bad guys. So that triggered me. So I started to do research on this in this war. There was no alternative media back then. We were presented with the idea that the Serbs were this evil Nazi kind of people who were killing and building concentration camps and having this expansion, this eager to expand the Greater Serbia project, all these kinds of things. That was how it was presented to us. And actually, it was completely twisted. I realized later on that it's interesting to have a small historical note on the Serbs, the history of the Serbian people. The Serbian people, in history, they were always very fighting imperialism. They have a very strong tribal, indigenous spirit, actually. And they are they had good ties with Russia, with the Middle East, with Europe, and a very autonomic tribe, if you want to call it that, and always fighting imperialism and never giving in to their values. If you go back to the Ottoman Empire, they suffered horrendously when they were fighting the Ottoman Empire. They didn't convert to Islam like a lot of Albanians and Croatians. That's why there are a lot of Muslim communities in former Yugoslavia. Then in the First World War, they lost 1 million Serbs. 25% of the population was killed in their heroic fights against the Austrian-Hungarian Empire. And then in the Second World War, they lost again 1 million Serbs were killed, horrendously killed, in the concentration camps in former Yugoslavia, run by the Vatican and the Ustashi Nazi units from the Croatian army. And then in this war, again, they were bombed and attacked and portrayed as being the Nazis. So it was completely twisted. And it was in this time that I realized that what the reality we are being presented with was complete false, and the other way around often, completely 180 degrees to the other side. Anyway, then later on I started to have contact with Alexander Dor, and this is Alexander. This is the book he read together with Zoran Jovanovic, both beautiful guys, very brave. I mean, this wormhole where they did their research for years was really amazing. But they were driven to speak out the truth about things. And, well, Alexander was arrested this year, what I say. Zoran was killed in 2013 by intelligence agencies when he called Alexander with the message that he found even more proof of which would destroy the Srebrenica myth. Then he was 10 hours after this phone call, he was found dead in his house. So for people, because it's very complicated to go deep in this material of this war, and we have to do geo-engineering, which is quite a subject. I have some books with me. If you're interested, you can buy them, and you support Alexander with doing that. But I'm very happy to speak and talk about it later. Then the period, things started to change quite rapidly after 9/11. 9/11, I won't go too deep in it as well, but as a pilot view, we could see quite soon after the official versions, from a pilot view, we could see that this was completely impossible. What the official story said, flight technically, flight operationally was impossible. And I was a flight instructor then, and we tried to do the same maneuvers in the flight simulator with instructors, all guys who really know to fly a big airliner, and we missed the buildings. Oh, wow. So we thought, wow, these guys can really good fly. But it appeared that they even couldn't fly a Cessna, but they managed to do this. But so this was really opening up my mind further and starting to dig in it, and all other doors opened, like you experience yourself, of course, at the same way. And then I became sick due to the toxic elements in the aircraft. Became a whistleblower on this issue. It took 10 years. Very difficult, lonely period, as a lot of people know who speak out the truth. But at the same time, in these dark periods, beautiful things arise. I met amazing people, and which really inspired me and evolved me more as a human being, and made me even more lose my sense of self, the ego. Because my story, if I compare it to other people, like for instance Bradley Manning. Oh yeah, Bradley Manning. Bradley Manning was a whistleblower on the collateral murder video in the Iraq War, and he was arrested because of this. His biggest crime was that he cared too much about the loss of life, and because of that he is now in prison for 35 years. When he was arrested, he was in solitary confinement for 9 months, 23 hours in his cell, sleeping without sheets and naked, horrifically. And that's where we are. If you speak out the truth, then you will be punished. And under the Obama administration, more whistleblowers than every president before combined are in jail or being prosecuted for national security. So I think in this world where people speak out, if you see this, how twisted this is, that's not the world I want to live in. And I think we all don't want to live in a world like that. We all want the same world with same laws for everybody, the universal laws, the same chances for everybody, a lot of love, a lot of spirituality, and we're going there, I think, still. It might look very dark, but I think the liberation and the opportunities this is offering us are there. I'm going into this later. I think it's very important now in this time to really make the next step and start really acting. We need to get more involved and more having real action from the heart. And an important element in this process is calling the beast by its name. Well, we have this megalomania freak show, which is not part of the world we want to have. A small group of people who are above the law, who are stealing the resources worldwide, killing, high treason, collaborating with the enemy. Every crime you can think about, they are guilty of this, and they don't care. They are psychopathic, of course. On this picture, you see Beatrix at a visit in Brunei. She was visiting her sociopathic soulmate, the Sultan of Brunei, just 2 weeks after he implemented Sharia law on his own citizens, where homosexuals are being stoned, and missing the Friday prayers is jail time or cutting off limbs, because he's losing power. So he imposed Sharia law, not for his family, of course. And just to give you the mindset of this picture is taken in the biggest palace in the world, of 1,800 rooms. And the guy, he has a fleet of yachts called Tits and Nipples, and it's completely clinically insane people running this show and controlling most of it. But it's because we let this happen. That's the most important thing. It's not that the politicians are the prostitutes, they are carrying out these agendas for these people, but it's us who let this happen. It's very important to come to this realization, and even more important to come to the realization that we can do something. And that's what I want to try and go in this conference. Or it's talk, sorry about my English, by the way, but this picture I wanted to show you because I say to people about politicians that they are either they're psychopathic, or very often they're trauma-based mind controlled, or trauma-based blackmailed, or they are not human. And then people say, well, Mark Rutte, he's a nice guy, and la la la. So I had this, it was 2 years ago. I was driving, and there was in front of me, a woman was hit by a truck. The truck drove over this woman, so I was on my scooter. I said, stop, stop. So I was in front of this truck, and the truck drove back over this woman. So the woman rolled in front of me, and she was in a really bad shape. She was almost dead. And sorry. I studied terminal care, so because of that I worked a lot in hospices and saw quite an amount of people in their last moments and dying processes. So I could see that this woman was really dying, and then I was comforting her. There was nobody there. I was the only one, and then I suddenly see a hand right of me pulling on the arm of this woman and screaming, "Ma'am, everything is going to be all right. I promise you, also on behalf of the government." That's what he said. And so I was like, come on, cool it down. And then I saw it was Mark Rutte. I'm there in the, sitting here with the woman. And there were people around this taking pictures, standing there. There was the guy of the medical guy was not yet there. And he said it 3 times. It's going to be okay. I promise you, also on behalf of the government. He said it 3 times. People don't believe it, but I found this picture 2 months ago. I said, you see, it's true. But I looked at him, and I saw when he was spewing out these empty words, still in his role as a politician. If somebody's dying, you can see the true personality coming out often, also of the person who's dying, but also of the people around it. And at the moment that there is somebody's dying here, a civilian, and he's still in this role of a politician. He could not step out of it and be just human. That was for me the ultimate proof that these guys are completely lost their souls, if you want to call it. They're all the same, and it doesn't matter who's there. And we should not give it too much energy and focus on ourselves, focus on like-minded people, and getting together with small communities in the neighborhood with the neighbors, and because we all feel the need for this, and let this freak show. I mean, of course, it's good to be aware of it and try to do something with it, but don't go too much in it. For me personally, the battle of the Palestinians and my contact with the people in Gaza, the Palestinians, liberated me of my own little story, if you want to call it like that. After my contacts with Palestinians in Gaza, who are in this concentration camp where they're being exterminated. This is the agenda. This is happening as we speak. Children are being tortured and being killed and slaughtered while we are watching football and buying Chinese stuff. This contact with the Palestinians is liberated me of my own story. I've never, after this, I could only feel love and no more suffering for my own story. The me dissolved in a way, and I think that's the key. What we should aim for, the intention, is to lose this me, this fragmented me, and come to the realization that we are really one. There is a collective consciousness, and the Palestinian spirit, the light of the Palestinian spirit in this collective human consciousness is really the heart of it. So if this is continuing, if this operation of extermination of the Palestinian spirit succeeds, humanity is in a way sort of lost. So it's a very important thing. And again, here is the tribal, indigenous spirit, like with the Serbs, like with the natives in North America, like in South America, like with the Armenians, the Kurds, Palestinians. They have this tribal, this light, very powerful autonomic spirit, consciousness, which is a very big hindrance for this globalist in their full spectrum insanity agenda. So they're wiping this out, and that's why they're doing this. And people who say that it's too far, it's too difficult, they all come up with arguments. If you talk about Palestinians, for instance, or the situation in Gaza, which is it's almost blocked in a way, people really ignoring it completely, and they say, yeah, it's too far. It's what can I do? Well, that's exactly the question. What can you do? I think the moment you start looking at these things, these events with your heart, shift to your heart consciousness, and look at it from the heart, you will automatically come up with ideas, with action, because then you feel that you are connected. For instance, this is a picture taken in 2014, last year, when the raid, this bombing campaign of Israel happened, when 2,000 Palestinians were killed. This is a picture of Ali Abu, and Ali Abu was a journalist, a very sweet man, a very brave guy, and he is here with his 6-year-old daughter, bombed away, including 16 other journalists. And it took me 15 minutes to get in contact with his family. I only saw this picture, and because out of that came beautiful contact and supporting. So it is not so difficult nowadays to have contact and to let your heart speak, and it's amazing, empowering as well. So again, out of this horror, beautiful things, this family who's still in this situation can shine light, and just as if they live in a paradise, and they live in hell. It's amazing. So it is not difficult. If you want do things with the heart, and you put your heart in it, what I say, it took me 15 minutes to get in contact, so it is not difficult. So that's the answer, I think. We have to shift to the heart consciousness, which is actually happening, I think. And it's interesting to see that the heart is in Palestine here. But anyway, the awakening that is actually happening, which we all can feel, gives us this opportunity to get out of this left brain awareness and shift to this heart consciousness, which gives us the realization on an experiential level that we are really one. We are part of this collective consciousness, and it is truly empowering to go there and to let your life being led by your heart. In order to be able to do that, we have to lose the me, the story, the self, the false self, and the opportunities, the difficult challenges we're facing. We can really do it. It's offering us, because this is going to change. It is falling down, and the system will come down. And because of that, we have this beautiful opportunity to let go, and then we can step in this next level of consciousness where we can experience that we are one, and we can create as one. How to do that? A very powerful way to shift your consciousness into the heart is put an intention in the heart. The shamans knew that the heart intention is one of the most powerful forces there is in the universe, and so if you're not really very aware of it, or you're not really familiar with these things, just try to put your intention in your heart, or whatever you want. If you put a true, honest intention of your heart, it will come. It's already there, actually. Only the way there, you have to go there, and your heart will tell you what to do to go there on that path. An important element in it is to awaken our inner warrior. That's a very important thing, and that will happen automatically if we realize that we are at war, we are under attack, we are being exterminated, and we are in a relentless war on us, on our families, children, and on the planet Earth itself. And it's not a coincidence that the toxic is coming from everywhere. It's in the food, it's now coming from the air in amazing levels. It's coming in the water. We have radiation, which is a very underestimated attack on our health. I will talk about it a little bit later about the health crisis. But the moment you realize that you're under attack, you trigger your inner warrior. The fight-flight mechanism will trigger. That has also very positive effects, also on a biochemical level. It will put you back in business. So the realization that you are at war, because we were being hypnotized, and the concept of war is difficult for us. But if you look at all these things now, it's more blatant. It's not so difficult anymore to realize that we are at war. This reflects us, our tribal spirit, indigenous spirit, connected with Mother Earth. We have the same life frequency as Mother Earth. That's not a coincidence, because we are actually the Earth, I think. And we have the same elements. We carry the same elements, and we carry the same frequencies. That's how we interact, and that's with the radiation we are being disconnected from it. So this tribal spirit, to awaken this again and getting in contact with it, is a very important tool as well, and that's why it's good to connect with each other locally. In that sense, just with your neighbors, just have more interaction instead of this phone culture. Well, then the problem is that the biggest elephant in the room, which is quite ignored, is that we live on a clinically dead planet, and a clinically dead biosphere. Actually, it's amazing how this is ignored in a way. This is a rabbit hole much bigger than 9/11, the global warming discussion, global cooling, hoaxes. You can lose yourself in this. Again, if you feel your heart, you can feel that there is definitely something wrong. And I mean, if we can sit in the park now, it's December, for instance, there are mosquitoes in the room last night, by the way, even that. So then we come on the part of geo-engineering, because geo-engineering is really having a devastating effect and is adding to the whole toxification and devastation of the planet and the biosphere. I had this slide because the first moment I realized that the weather was manipulated was also on during the attacks of 9/11. It was I don't know if you remember, there was a hurricane. That was Hurricane Erin, and I was flying in and out of the Caribbean, and I was giving instructions to new pilots. So we were very aware of this hurricane movement and the dynamic, and monitoring it every day. And then on the 10th of December, I remember I was in Curaçao, and we were discussing, and it was on the news, on all the mainstream news. They said, "Oh, this hurricane is diverting, and it's diverting to the east," and or they didn't even mention it anymore on the mainstream news channels, which was ridiculous because it was still heading for New York and gaining strength. So that for us that's weird. And even more weird was that it made a 180 backtrack on the 11th. So then we thought, this is really weird. So that was my first contact with weather manipulation. Didn't know about geoengineering, of course, by then. So geoengineering, what is geoengineering? It's good to get also with geoengineering to stick with the right words to use it, because this words like chemtrails, they are used to put you aside as like same, you know, with 9/11 conspiracy theories. They try to get you, keep you in the discussion of chemtrails. Stick to the term of geoengineering. The aerosol spraying is part of geoengineering. It's a very broad, it's an umbrella term for different measures in the deliberate large-scale intervention in the climate system in order to limit climate change. And you see, these are official schemes we are presented with. What they do, an important measure in the slowing down of global warming is solar radiation management. Well, they have different ways of doing this. You see, if space mirrors, outlandish things, they come up with space mirrors. You see artificial trees to suck up carbon dioxide, and dumping toxic iron materials in the sea for fertilization. And of course, the most important part is the spraying of the atmosphere with particulates, aerosol spraying. Very coincidence is that this is a KLM MD-11, which I flew for 16 years in the official scheme. But so this it's actually the tip of the iceberg, the aerosol spraying, what we see. Well, for instance, what we see here is a satellite picture. Oh, this is, yeah, we see a satellite picture here of the west coast of United States. What you see here over the Pacific, there's 24/7 heavy spraying over the West Pacific, and this is causing the chemical rains and the snowfalls in the ridiculous weather patterns in the United States. Actually, the United States is relentlessly under geoengineering attacks, and the drought in California, which is now for the 4th year in a row, is caused by the jet stream, which is the jet stream. They manipulated the jet stream with the HAARP installations, but because of this heavy spraying here, you see, this is, if you think this is commercial traffic, you seriously need to have a reality check. This is all aerosol spraying, and this is flowing into the United States. What we are being presented with on the weather channels, for instance, are these kinds of pictures. You see, this is the same day, same time. On the television weather channels, you see these kinds of satellite pictures, and with an enhanced infrared, you see this picture. So they're really hiding this up, and they can do that because the weather channels, the corporations who do the weather channels, who do the weather forecasts, and who do the weather statistics, they are owned by the same corporations who have the geoengineering patents. That's corporations like Raytheon. Raytheon is a major defense contractor, a major geoengineering contractor, but also corporations like Monsanto. Monsanto bought the Weather Corp for 970 million, so that they can control the message. You see now meteorologists speaking out or giving the weather. They are just reading scripts, the meteorologists today. They say this is normal. So here we see, I don't have all kinds of pictures of spraying. This is actually only the only one I have. But it's a very clear thing. Again, if you think this is normal contrail forming or is normal air, then it's really good to have a serious check on your reality, because this is complete insane. And to give an answer on your question, the formation of a contrail, the conditions of the atmosphere have to be perfect in order to form a persistent ice crystal contrail. And you have to have the conditions. You have to be above 30,000 feet. The temperature has to be minus 40 degrees or lower, and you have to have a relative humidity of 67%. This is a bit technical maybe, but that's never the case, almost never the case. So it's impossible to see all these contrails. So there must be another element in it, which is the presence of particulates in order to form clouds. And that's what happened. Yes? Yes. Ja. Ja. Ja, ja. Ja, oké, heel goed. Ja, dankjewel. Yes, so this is just one approach where you can just come to the conclusion that it's impossible that you can see these contrails, persistent contrails. And another good way of concluding that this aerosol spraying is actually happening is doing just water samples or blood samples. I had my blood checked 3 weeks ago, and my barium levels are over 50 times more than the toxic limit in my body. So, and you don't want to have any barium in your system, but these are very simple things you can do. Just have your water checked. We had the water checked in France and in Spain, people, and the levels of aluminium and barium, strontium, and other heavy metals are, especially aluminium, that is like 500 times over the toxic limit. So this is very, what more do you want to know? So here, this is the situation we have now, and if you think this is normal, but here again it's interesting to see the reaction, because we see it happening, but we don't know what to do about it. And especially with geoengineering, it's so multi-layered, so complicated. You can study it for 4 years and you still don't know exactly what it is, who does it. It's on purpose so multi-layered. Fact is that's happening, but a thing you can do, what I just said, is just have your water checked or have a blood check, and the things you will find in the blood or in the water match the patterns, the geoengineering patterns, which are there. You can find the patterns. There are hundreds of patterns on the geoengineering, and they are owned by the same corporations. Now they try to desperately to say that this is all normal. They have a brainwash program going on with the children, to have the children think this is all normal. At schools they learn that these contrails are there and that they're just clouds, all disgusting forms of mind control actually. And that the conditioning that it is just normal. So after the climate summit, it's amazing, this climate summit where over 2,000 top scientists were joining, and for 2 weeks, and not a word about geoengineering. Geoengineering is really adding the whole global warming issue, and more than all the other elements combined. Carbon dioxide is a problem, that is definitely true, but what they do now with the spraying of the atmosphere is really ramping it up in a horrific way. So what we're looking at, we hardly see any normal sky anymore. We have now 25% global dimming, and that's so we have 25% less sunlight coming on the Earth's surface, and that's causing a lot of health problems, of course, for us, but also for the plant animal. It's all the same, of course. Vitamin D there's an epidemic of vitamin D shortage, which is also related to Alzheimer. Besides the aluminium, the link with aluminium and Alzheimer and autism are there, and you see it sparking in off-the-charts amounts. So we're looking at aerosol clouds of toxic electroconductive nanoparticles, which can be manipulated with EMF, with HAARP. That's how they control the weather, how they so it works in combination with each other. It's not only the spraying of the atmosphere. They say they do it for a reflection of sunlight, but the heat gets trapped because of this layer. The heat the heat gets trapped, so it's actually increasing the global warming. Besides the toxification elements of it, I was just saying about, for instance, autism rate in 1975, we had 1 in 5,000 children had autism. Today it's 1 in 47, and if the senior scientists of MIT, which is one of the main research institutes in the United States, they predicted that in the coming 10 years, 1 in 2 children will have autism, if this continues, this trend. So you see the links of the aluminium and the barium and autism and Alzheimer is peer-to-peer refuted study that is factual. So what more proof do we need? So we are being sort of exterminated with these programs, literally. Respiratory mortality rate in the United States in the past 3 years went up from 8th place to the 3rd place. So how many people already died of this? This is a silent war. It's not silent anymore because we can really see it happening. But it has also the effect on the plant-animal world and on the planet itself, of course. The extinction rate of planet and animal species are like never before. We have now 200 to 300 animal plant species per day who are extinguishing. And, well, a lot of scientists, numerous scientists speaking of the 6th great extinction. We had 5 great extinctions in the past 500 million years, and now we're in the 6th. And we have now 60% of all plant animal species have died already. And we are with it, and the planet itself as well. And they're ramping it up. So here we see, for instance, who is doing this? Well, we come always to the same people. If you do research and you connect the dots and the corporations, you come at the same psychopathic people who are busy with this global full spectrum dominance agenda and the depopulation agenda. If you, for instance, this is Zbigniew Brzezinski. He's one of the insiders, advisors, and architects of the full spectrum dominance agenda. If you have just a thought about his mindset, what he says, major world powers, new and old, also face a novel reality. While the lethality of their military might be greater than ever, their capacity to impose control over the politically awakened masses over the world is at a historic low. So that's a good thing. That's us. We're waking up. That's their biggest threat. They address this, that the biggest threat in their agenda for this new world order expansion, full spectrum dominance, is the global political awakening. So that's us. But he goes further. To put it bluntly, in earlier times it was easier to control 1 million people than to physically kill 1 million people. Today it's infinitely easier to kill 1 million people than to control 1 million people. So just to have the mindset of these people, these so-called people who are completely psychopathic. And the geoengineering programs, HAARP technology, goes back decades. It's if you see, because often you get a question of people say, why should they do this? Why would they do this? Well, this question, if you see in history what they did, they just do it. They don't think about the consequences. For instance, we had in 1946 they started with nuclear testing. They had Operation Crossroads, where they blew up these atolls in the Southwest Pacific. They, without any clue what was going to happen, they just blew up. They have exploded, detonated over 2,000 nuclear bombs since then in the atmosphere, under the earth, above the earth. So their mindset is totally not occupied with what might be the consequences. They just do it and they see what's happening. We had Operation Argus in 1958, for instance. They launched a rocket into the Van Allen belt, the lower Van Allen belt in the upper atmosphere, with 350 million copper needles and of 4 centimeters in order to create a telecommunication shield. I mean, these kinds of things, completely insanity. So the topic global warming, there is definitely global warming, I think. And again, if you go on the internet, you can find people who are against it, are promoting it, and global cooling. But if you just look around and feel what you're experiencing, you cannot come to another conclusion besides the tons of information that it is really happening. That we have definitely global warming, a warming planet, in a really cataclysmic way. We have the oceans, the temperatures of the oceans. We have 20 degrees ocean temperature in Alaska, and a bigger problem. What you see here, this is a quite recent one of November 23, 2015, temperature anomalies. And what you see, and that is the biggest problem, is this here. That is the high temperatures in Siberia. Because of the rise of the temperature of the oceans, the methane from the ocean is being released. And methane is the real problem here. That's the biggest contributor to the global warming. It has 100 times more adding characteristics than carbon dioxide. And there are numerous amounts of scientists who are blowing the whistle on this methane problem, who are being just ignored. And we have in Siberia, because in Siberia there is we have 50 gigatons of methane in Siberia, which can be released any moment. And it's not one scientist, these are close to 200 scientists in the Arctic Methane Emergency Group, who are screaming, blowing the whistle on this fact that this needs to be addressed. And the interesting thing is that the power structure is aware of this, but I don't know exactly what it is. They're ignoring the fact that geo-engineering is ramping this whole non-linear event in a horrific way, but they also try to make money out of it still. So I don't know exactly what their mindset is, but it's a very complicated thing. Here you see the methane, and this is in the Siberia, this is the East Siberian Arctic Shelf. And we have there 50 gigatons of methane can be released anytime. People speaking out of this. A very strong indication, because then you can say, yeah, is it true, maybe not true. A good indication of the presence of methane in the atmosphere are noctilucent cloud formations. The forming of noctilucent clouds, that's an indication of the presence of methane in the atmosphere. And we see that more than ever. You have these beautiful sunsets we see, and everybody goes, oh, these beautiful sunsets. These red sunsets. Actually, this is an indication of the atmosphere being full with methane and toxic materials. This is actually very ominous, these kinds of beautiful clouds you see. And the problem with methane is that it is a feedback loop. It is non-linear. So the more methane is released, the more the global warming is fueled, and then you have the risk that the planet can be drawn into a Venus syndrome. So it's an important thing, and it's pretty big. Here we see the ice caps, especially in the north, the Arctic, the disappearing of the ice, the polar ice, is a fact. it's not true that this ice is growing and it is building. No, it's definitely a fact that the ice is disappearing. They expect in 1 or 2 years that there will be no ice at the North Pole, and that's actually fueling the release of methane from the sea floors. And again, if you think, okay, for me personally it was good to see, because I flew for 15 years over Greenland every month, so I could see it with my own eyes. So that's the best indication, because on the internet again it's so difficult to get really the information, and it's also the danger that you get lost in it and you try to look more and you get more on the internet. But again, if you find ways to check it here, for me it worked very good actually. And to observe, I mean that's a good indication, because scientific community is bought and paid for by the corporations. So you have a huge amount of scientists who are actually working for these corporations and for the political establishment. So you don't find really makes it a bit difficult to get real confirmation, but your body never lies, and that's the best indication or instrument, if you want to call it like that. Another problem is that the ozone layer is getting ripped by the methane release and by geoengineering and by ionosphere heaters like HARP. And that's a fact as well. And you just walk in the sun, if there's a clear day, there are not so many clear days anymore, but if you walk on the beach in the summer, the sun is unbearably hot, and that's because the ozone layer is shredded. Normally we have UVA, what we have on the planet's surface. UVB, the official explanation, or officially they say it's 5% UVB what we receive at planet Earth, but actually it's 60% UVB. And there are already areas where UVC is measured on the planet's surface. Next level after UVC is X-ray, to give you an indication how severe it is. This is killing the plankton in the oceans. Plankton gives us 50% of the oxygen, and because of the ozone and the methane, the oceans are dying as well. It's not that I want here to portray a very dark thing. I mean, it's pretty serious, of course, but there are also, again, beautiful things in it and opportunities for us. But we have to first come to the realization that there is a serious problem with the Earth, with the biosphere, and that we need to act now to wake up from this reality. For instance, we have over 400 dead zones in the oceans. Some of them are more than 10,000 square miles big. There's dead zones. There's no life in these areas, and that's growing. Besides the fact that the Pacific is radioactive, of course, which is also another thing. The drafts is also what we're experiencing, because the geoengineering is interrupting the hydrological cycles. So you get severe droughts at certain areas, and you get ridiculous amounts of rain somewhere else. What we saw in France this year, and even here you see sometimes weather phenomena where you just think this is really outlandish, out of control. But the geoengineering, because of this atmosphere is not anymore just air where the hydrological cycle is working, it's just a plasma. So convection is very difficult. It's very difficult. It's impossible often to form rain showers and cold pressure systems. Because of this, we have another problem, which is also due to the geoengineering. The levels of aluminiums and the heavy metals are killing off the trees. We have a massive die-off of trees everywhere, actually. In Siberia alone, 100 million acres per year of forests are burning down because of the droughts, and also because of the particles. The aluminium nanoparticles are not only bioavailable, so they destroy root systems, but they're also incendiary. So if it's too dry, they inflame. So that's why you have this horrific amounts of fires, forest fires over the globe, which is again adding to the greenhouse effect and global warming. This is Alaska in heavy fires. Only the biggest fires in Alaska was this year in August. Well, you can see it's like the same in Canada. Canada had 700% more forest fires than normally. So here we see a very lethal weapon. This is a HAARP facility in Alaska, and there's a whole grid of these HAARP facilities. There are also mobile facilities of HAARP, ionosphere heaters. They say it's in a research state, but what I just told you, this goes way back. The technology was in the 58 with Operation Argus when they detonated nuclear bombs into the lower Van Allen belt, and which caused the flooding in Chile and earthquakes in Alaska. They tried to it's actually part of the Star Wars project, and they do it for, they say we do it for for communication with submarines and for military purposes, but it is all from the military. These are all programs from the military, and they can be used to control the weather, to control people as well. And they bombard the ionosphere with insane amounts of electromagnetic radiation frequencies. They microwave it, 3.5 million watts. They can beam into the ionosphere. It gets heated, it gets bulbed, it gets a sort of bulb into the ionosphere, and then it's reflecting to wherever they want. And that's working together with the aerosol spraying, because the aerosol spraying are all nanoparticles of metals, and they can use these frequencies to manipulate these nanoparticles and create low pressure weather systems. They can create droughts, they can create flooding, they can really control the weather with it. And they say that they don't use it. Well, if you have satellite images like this, then you know that this is complete nonsense. It's fully operational, and it's fully they're using it on a daily basis. You see, this is the effect of this HAARP beaming of the ionosphere, which is reflecting to the skies, and then you get these kinds of skies. And then they say the weather people say this is normal. So there is a whole grid of these HAARP installations over the world, and that's good to know, because these countries, they work together on these programs, and that's for me an indication that this is all one big organization, if you want to call it like that. Russians and Chinese and the United States, they work together in the same operation, if you want to call it like that. This operation which is killing the planet, is killing the biosphere, is killing everything, life form on it. The fact that these countries work together in these programs is for me an indication that they this whole arena, what we see in the politically arena, where they're supposedly fighting each other and the good guy, bad guy, I think they're all in it the same. And the geoengineering is actually offering us it's so blatant, so you can really see it. It's different than only electromagnetic radiation. But if you look at the skies, if you see this, you see it. So it's easier it's a sort of portal for people to wake up in a way. So people who are still in a sort of sleep state or thinking that everything's all right, the geoengineering, because it's so visibly, offers the opportunity, the chance to really wake up from it. So in that sense, it's a good thing. Well, due to HAARP reflections, we get these kinds of radar reflections. You see here is this is completely unnatural weather system. If you see it like this, we have all kinds of Nexrad towers spread out over the whole United States, from where they ionization, the cloud covers, and then they can cause these weather systems, which are all toxic, of course, because of the nanoparticles in it. It's happening here as well. We see here, it's not so sharp, but you see here, here's in Belfast, there's a station as well. And you see the effects of it. It's completely unnatural, these kinds of straight lines in a low pressure system. Yeah, what I just said, sea surface anomalies, the temperatures. What we had in Alaska, we had 20 degrees sea temperature in Alaska and 15 degrees in Siberia. This is really factual information. There are great resources. I have really found great information on geo-engineeringwatch.org. A tremendous amount of information on it, and the founder Dane Widgington is actually really full on fighting the geoengineering program, so that's a good resource. And another one is the Arctic News blogspot. And interesting to see, because they are observing what's happening in the Arctic. There are like a few hundred scientists connected to the Arctic News blogspot. But the interesting thing is that they see this happening and they are sort of screaming for geoengineering to solve this problem. They are not aware that it's already full on in process. So they see this is happening, the global warming and the thing, and then they say we need really things like geoengineering, but it's so twisted in this sense. So this is a new layer of insanity. Whoa. That is Project Lucy. They come up with the idea to have the methane decomposed with mobile HAARP systems. Then they beam frequencies into the ionosphere, which then decomposes the methane, and then it becomes a cloud. That's the solution for it. But actually, that's increasing the trapped heat and the global warming and the greenhouse effect. But they come up with these ideas, really insanity. Microwaving the ionosphere in order to solve these problems. This is a thing like an installation, IXB, mobile HAARP installation. You see, this is outrageous type of vessels and technology. There's a lot of money. It's trillions of dollars are being made out of this whole geoengineering and global warming phenomena. Again, it's not that it's not happening global warming. They use it to earn more money. They're not thinking about the consequences. And so we will see quite soon geoengineering being implemented as the solution for the global warming, so that the same people can earn a lot of money out of it. There's actually a huge casino on the stock market on weather derivatives. So Monsanto, they have weather systems. They own the geoengineering things, so they can speculate on coming droughts or coming weather phenomena and make billions of trillions of money of it. It's really sick. So the geoengineering and weather modification, it's very complicated, and my message is actually to see that it's happening, be aware that it's happening. Don't try to understand it, because the people who know a lot about it, they also don't know exactly what it is, who it does, how exactly it works. It is by design made so complicated and multi-layered that to divide us. The Club of Rome already came with statements like 100 years ago, whatever, that they will use pollution in order to implement a world government and this thing. So they are using it, but it's good to make it small, and to because otherwise you're sort of paralyzed by all this information or the insecurity about it, and there's no momentum. We need this momentum. We need action. So in that sense, it's good to make these things small by, for instance, have your water checked or have your blood checked, and look up the patents, and look outside, look out to the health problems, look around you, and then you know enough actually, and then act, do action. Last part, I don't know what time it is actually, how long I'm speaking. I'm almost ready here. A lot of time people say, what can I do? What can we do about these things? The vaccines, the radiation, geoengineering. Well, this is an interesting thing. There are several people working on kind of sort of manifests or contracts like this, statements of accountability, which you can just make yourself well thought. You can see these templates are there, you can find them, and you can just, for instance, if your child goes to school and you're worrying about the radiation because they're implementing 5G or more Wi-Fi, you can just have your statement of accountability, ask your teacher or the school director that he signs this, because if they are implementing these things, then they know what they're doing, and you can have them sign for that, and they will not sign. Same with vaccines. You can ask your doctor, okay, you're going to vaccinate my child, then you can, there's another one I think, then I want you to sign this document that you did your research, you're aware what you're putting in my child, and please sign this. And the doctor will say, no, I will not sign this, of course, because the doctor doesn't know what's what is injecting. So, and then you can continue your action with it, with this information. So you won't sign for it. So and then you go to the next step, contact other parents, other people, and that gives momentum. Okay, I come almost to the end. The solutions in this time, in this period, what to do. I think the most important thing is that is to let go, and because sorry. This will continue, of course. The situation where we are in, what we see in France, society will change. The thing is, the whole system is coming down, and in it we can liberate ourselves with letting go, letting the me go, letting the self go, the false self, and come to the shift the consciousness into the heart consciousness and act from the heart. That's the essence actually, and we're going there, and that's the beautiful thing of it, to see this, because it needs to happen. If we want another world, we want another world, and a more beautiful world with equality for everybody. This needs to go. Everything needs to go in a way. And we are spiritual beings having this physical experience. We are in between, so it's not already in a full awareness. But if we put the intention there, it is happening, and we have to let go. And that's actually a beautiful thing, because it needs to go. If you want to be rebirth humanity, we need to let go of everything. So that's the message actually for now, my presentation. So thank you for your attention. If you have any questions.